What does it take to create a new civilization here on Earth? What is it going to take for humanity to love each other, to come together, to cooperate, to work together for a renewed way of living here on planet Earth? We're going to discuss that and more on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network with Adam Apollo. Stay tuned.
You got to accentuate the positive. Wow, I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
If you feel like that's what you want to do.
And welcome to another show, Accentuating the Positive, with Karen Swain, awakening and expanding consciousness. Look who is in the house. Adam Apollo is back. Yay! Welcome, Adam. So great that you could join us again.
Thank you so much, Karen. It's such a pleasure to be here with you.
So I had Adam on the show last year, just to remind people that now we are streaming on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 and 105.3 FM syndicated radio across the internet, across the United States and Canada. We're also streaming on various platforms, YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, Facebook, and I look forward to your comments today. But we had a fabulous conversation last year about sovereignty and all sorts of things, but I'm going to call it the red platform didn't really agree with what we said, so they took down our conversation, but it's up on a stack of other platforms if you want to go and listen to our conversation last year about a whole lot of things. Specifically, we talked about Adam's journey and what's happening on the planet and the expansion of consciousness, a whole lot of stuff, and what we've been through over the last 4 years. And it's in the link underneath this streaming platform on, it's in the link under the Facebook and YouTube and everything to listen to that. But we're going to continue the conversation today. So we've got a new audience since last year because we're streaming on the syndicated radio on the United Public Radio Network. So for those people who haven't heard about Adam, I'm going to tell you a little bit about him through his bio. So Adam is dedicated to achieving a sustainable and thriving interplanetary culture. In 2005, Adam made physical contact with an extraterrestrial Star Nation ambassador and began active and ongoing communication with Galactic Ambassadors from a vast array of different species supporting Earth. After having a vision of the universe as a fractal hologram at the age of 15, Adam Apollo extensively studied a wide variety of I can't spit that out.
Theoretical astrophysics.
Astrophysics. Thank you.
Yeah,
By the time you graduated high school, he had a complete major research papers on the potential interface between consciousness, physics of space-time. So as a speaker, Adam's been everywhere. He's been featured in many events online and in person, including in the White House and the United Nations conferences around the world. He offers insights on global transitioning physics, technology, human spirituality, and the future. And as a next generation leadership ambassador at the White House, in multiple nexuses and other summits at the United Nations. And you're also presenting, which I'm presenting at the Awakening of Humanity. The Portal to Ascension is putting that on, the largest consciousness streaming event I think ever attempted. Neil has got 77 speakers. I think he's doing it for about a week or 10 days. I don't know, constant streaming of people. Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
That's thank you so much for having me, Karen, and thanks for the introduction and the bio, and of course, these things are always funny, when you have to sit and listen to your own life told through the lens of a professional biography, that's been written out in polished to make sure that you're, you know, getting the access that you need to have. And yet there's very little, I think, that we get from those bios about who someone really is, and what's in their heart and what they're here to do. And, you know, in this day and age, you can get canceled for dang near anything. And I've had people both think it's intriguing that I've spoken at the White House, and on the other side thought, oh my God, he must be like evil or something, because, you know, as a kid, he was talking about the future of education and, you know, how do we create Town Hall 2.0? How do we create new kinds of communities? And ended up getting invited to join a group of young leaders, a next generation leadership group at the White House in the Obama administration. And it was actually a fabulous time. And I learned a lot about control systems and sovereignty and things like that while I was actually engaged in these events, because I had White House aides, you know, essentially sit down with us and say, you know, you guys, you kids are going to be the ones that are going to be able to make the change out there. They would say, we really appreciate what you're thinking about and the strategies that you have and the ideas that you have. But to be very honest, we actually can't make those changes from in here, from top down, because the bureaucracy is too tight. The system is too well controlled in the way that it operates. And you guys are going to be the ones that are going to have to actually make the changes out there, and we'll support you. And that was a big wake up call for me. And I mean, maybe it was kind of a wake up call. It was really more a big confirmation, I guess, that, you know, when you want to make really big change, it's not going to happen from the top down, because the systems that we have around us have momentum to them. And the momentum in those systems is extremely strong. You know, if you've ever been a part of a big company or a big organization and you try to move the train a different direction or change a policy, it's a huge deal, because there's so many people involved, so many protocols and ways of doing things. And my God, you know, don't get me started about all the forms and the like bureaucratic mechanisms and applications and verification systems. It's extraordinary how much work we've created for ourselves as humans, to be able to actually make change and validate that change is happening.
Oh yeah, I so agree. You know, politicians and people in the UN and big corporations, they talk about wanting change and making change, but they don't. They don't. As you said, there's too many systems in place that don't allow the changes that people say they want to make. And I think, you know, it's up to us. It's up to the people to make those changes or to demand those changes. Yeah, the people power, rather than waiting for systems and big corporations and who we think is managing the world to make those changes. Yeah, as we were talking about before we went live, we've moved into a new way on planet Earth where we can't wait for governments and organizations to make the changes. It's really about the unification of the people, and that's what's going to make the changes. Yeah, absolutely.
100%. As Buckminster Fuller would say, you know, you can't fight an existing system in order to change it. You have to actually build a new system that makes the old system obsolete. And, you know, there's a common phrase that's transcend and include. And it's one of my favorite phrases, because it means, what does it look like when we take the existing architecture, the existing systemic framework, we transcend it, meaning that we understand its limitations and we also understand its gifts. It's very important to always take both sides. Every one of the things that we've got going on out in the world, it's got a light side, it's got a shadow side, it's got a gift, it's got a detriment. And we have to take both. Transcending means to see from above. So to be able to witness all the facets of something, and then include. So you build a new system, but you include enough elements of what works in the old system that people can actually transition, that they can actually move from where they're at and the way that they're operating now into a new way of operating seamlessly and easily, you know, in a fluid manner that doesn't require hard, jagged changes in people's lives. You know, unfortunately, I'm sure we all have a lot of friends out there who have said, oh, well, you know, we just need to like end the technology thing and go back to nature and just start over with like gardening and farming. Well, that's an interesting idea. But if you actually look at history and you look at how we got to where we are, you'll realize that the amount of conflict and the amount of violence and death and the issues that existed prior to technology and some of the systems that we've implemented was a much, much more difficult way of life. I can't tell you how many times I reflect on and think about how thankful I am that I can literally just walk into a shower and turn on the water and it's hot and it flows on my body. I mean, all the way to the point of like, when I want something to eat, I don't have to go find a village to trade with a particular person to get a certain thing that then I have to trade with something else to be able to get that turkey or whatever. I can literally pull a device out of my pocket and go, I would like this. And it shows up at my doorstep in a couple hours. I mean, right? Yeah. So, you know, we need to think about the kinds of things that have massively improved our lives, made our lives more spacious, and made our lives more peaceful, that are gifts of the technology. But we also have to understand, how do we integrate back into nature? How do we serve the planet again? How do we steward and care for the beauty that is all around us, for our sake and for the sake of our children for generations to come?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot to think about. Can I share something with you that, have you heard of Penny Kelly? Do you know Penny Kelly? She's in her 70s now. She's another Galactic Ambassador. She's, you know, from other places in the universe, and she's had many experiences. I won't go into it, but she wrote a book 40 odd years ago called The Robes. These little men in brown robes turned up in her kitchen, a group of them, and said, we're here to give you some information. And they downloaded this information. She said she was sitting on the couch. It was like wearing a virtual reality. She was inside the information they were sharing with her, like virtual reality. Then 20 years later, they said, you need to write about it. So she wrote a book. She argued with them, but eventually wrote a book called The Robes. And one of the things they shared was a vision of the future, a probable vision or a parallel vision, you know, like there's many visions of the future, a couple of hundred years into the future. And she was inside a house, and she was walking through the house, and she went into the kitchen, and she said to me, Karen, there was no food cupboards. There was no food in the kitchen. I said, where was the food? And she said it was outside in the garden. They had what they called the kitchen garden. But so they were eating from the garden. So it was going back to nature, but there was a technology involved in it that was over this garden. It was like an energy frequency technology that maintained the atmosphere so that everything could grow and there wouldn't be pests, you know, eating it. And so technology and nature was happening simultaneously. And I just thought that was such a cool vision. And she said that they moved into like what many people are trying to do, like move into society of, they called family groups, but they weren't necessarily related by blood, like what we call communes, or where people come together and work together in, what do we call that? Communes, or people try to do it all the time.
Well, I mean, there's a massive network of places called the Global Eco Village, for example, which is really, community. It's community housing, but it's created by the community for each other in a way that creates, a localized culture and connection. I mean, I have friends in Costa Rica with property that are doing this, and other friends in other parts of the world doing this kind of thing. Yeah, it's really great how much it's expanding and showing up.
Yeah, so she was saying that the world had sort of moved in this vision that she was shown, had moved into that way of living. There were small groups and then bigger groups, and everyone was sort of looking after each other. And there were like big family groups of thousands, like little towns or cities, but not like you don't know your next door neighbor. Like everyone's working together to live in a sustainable world. Yeah, it's interesting. And Indigo says here, what is electroculture? That's a good question, Indigo. Thanks for the question.
What is electroculture?
Did you say that? Electroculture.
I don't think I said that, but
you don't think you said that? Oh, okay.
But it's a fascinating word, electroculture. You know, it makes me think of like electronic music or something where it's like electroculture. It's just what you go, you know, like I don't know. What's electroculture? Yeah, perhaps misheard a word that I said or something, but that's super cute.
Maybe
personally,
that's
I'm more into the break beats. So, you know, my electroculture is more like or sometimes it's a little dubsteppy, like wow 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 wow. You know, I like those like rolling fat bass lines, that kind of thing. Anyway, that's my electroculture. What's yours? Share with us in the chat.
Oh my God, hilarious. Yeah, so Adam is also a musician, and you play a lot of beats at festivals, and you're all over the shop. But
yeah,
something that you wrote, which is the conversation we're having already. Thanks, Nancy. I want to say hi to everyone that's online. Nancy says, loving this interview.
Please.
Thanks, everybody, all the ladies, Shirley and Diane, everyone that's online. Yeah, I wrote this down. Here, where is it? Here or where? How do we transition to a global culture of planetary stewardship? What does it take to transition to the planet to a state of sustainable, thriving, full of peace and prosperity for all, in service to the sacred in all? And how can we model our Earth civilization after the advanced wisdom and tech from our Star Nation families? So I know that this is something that you spoke about at Contact in the Desert, right? You said that. So yeah, how do we do that? How do the people listening to this, what is the first step that they can do? What can they do?
Yeah, first step. I mean, that's the trickiest part. The first step is actually beginning to become aware that it's possible to change the world. I think that's one of the biggest things that we all face, is this sense of the impossibility of changing something so big. I mean, when you walk around a city and you see all the buildings and all the cars and all the stuff and all the people moving, how are you going to approach changing any of that? Like, it's every one of those things is part of a legacy system stacked on top of a legacy system stacked on top of a legacy system. And so it takes a tremendous amount to disrupt that kind of thing and or change the trajectory of those things. We have some decent models of how that can be done. For example, Elon Musk and Tesla, regardless of whether you like him or not, or think he's good or bad or whatever, doesn't matter. If you look at what he did with Tesla, it's really fascinating because, you know, essentially he takes, you know, a supercar, you know, a very fast car, the Tesla Roadster, and he makes a car that's really, really sexy and good looking, and that's exciting to drive, and that goes faster and accelerates faster than every car on the market, but it's electric. And so through sex appeal and through the sort of like culture of car lovers and how much people love fast cars and how many people out there do that, he cut through this little spot that in the psyche of the people said, well, electric cars are ugly, they're stupid. And a lot of the other electric cars at the time, they look like, you know, little toy cars, like go-karts, you know, or whatever. And these little weird Beetles you drive around, and there was nothing sexy about them at all, right? And so he bypassed all of that and went straight to the heart of car culture, of speed and amazing and performance and all of that. And he made an electric car sexy. And all of a sudden, with an electric car being sexy, the market opens up. And now all of a sudden, all of these people want electric cars. And then it's kind of ridiculous. I live in LA these days, and the amount of people that drive Teslas in California is just, it's become insane. It's like, wow, I mean, you literally can't drive for more than a couple minutes without seeing another Tesla on the road.
Yeah, Sydney, where I live in Sydney, is exactly the same. Exactly the same. Yeah,
it's phenomenal.
He made it trendy. It's like he made it trend.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so that's the first piece that we can look at in this puzzle to solve is how do you make planetary stewardship, sovereignty, regenerative impact, how do you make these things sexy? How do we get from them being like, right now, the current state of thought is, okay, you want to make the world a better place? Well, you better donate to a charity, right? So the experience is, well, I just earned all this hard-earned money this month, and I've got this money, I have bills and stuff, and I only have so much extra, or maybe I don't even have extra. And like now I've got to like give this money to Red Cross or like someone who's going to do good with it. Okay, sure. And then you do that and you give money to the Red Cross, or to one of any of these tons of large organizations, that are out there. And you sit there and you're like, okay, now what? Nothing happens. Nothing changes. You don't see anything move. You never know what goes on with that money. And after you do that a few times, you realize, wow, like what am I actually giving to? And then you discover that unfortunately, a lot of the largest charities, the ones that actually send you the mail and say, hey, just put your $10 in, become a member of this, and we're going to change the world for you. You realize that a lot of these large scale organizations spend so much on administration of the funds that only 10%, sometimes less, ends up actually going and doing the thing that you put your money in to do. So what are you really doing? You're really just paying people's paychecks. You're paying for a business. And in some cases, you're paying for, or leaders and organizations where the money is, essentially not going to impact at all. And in some cases, unfortunately, actually is going to further the problem. And this is the case in certain industries that I won't speak about on your show in order to not have this episode disappear from certain platforms. But I think some of you out there might know what some of those industries are and some of the kinds of things that there may already be solutions to, but that right now, the suppression of those solutions creates a greater financial opportunity than the release of the solutions. And because of that, we still are fighting against X disease or X, physiological issue or X energy system or whatever. We're fighting instead of actually changing the systemic order of things. So we're faced with these challenges when we look at how do we effectively make planetary and global change. And I'll pause there because I want this to be a conversation, Karen. So feel free to jump back in and then we can kind of take it layer by layer until we show them the actual mechanisms for how we can pull this off.
Well, yeah, like what you're talking about, many of the people I've had on the shows over the years who have visited other cultures across the cosmos, other civilizations. There's another person, Garnet, who is taken by a spirit guide out in his astral body and explores the universe and Earth and all sorts of things. He's written about 5 books on his adventures. He goes to human planetary systems, and they're so much more evolved than us. And they're all vegan. They're all vegetarian and vegan because they understand that the way that we produce food, the food system, is not sustainable and cruel for the most part. And so just what you're saying, I've seen that with the food system because the vegans make this, chips and burgers and steaks and chicken curry. They make it look like the old system, but it's not.
Yeah.
So they're not saying, and there are these burger shops around Sydney, well, they used to be Soul Burger, and they call their, chicken curry and beef this, and they call it that. So they're sort of appealing to the old way, but with a new way. So that's kind of like what you're saying. They're making vegan sexy, like you say, or they're appealing to the appetite of the nation or the world
with
using a different system of preparing and organizing food.
Absolutely. That's a beautiful example. And regardless of your listeners' diets, I mean, I personally, I was vegetarian for a long time. I tried vegan for a while, and went uncooked, totally raw for a while, did all kinds of different things. And now I'm actually more of a carnivore. I'm more primarily a carnivore. It's much better for my body, and my personal health, my metabolic health in particular. There are also a lot of star nations out there that are not vegan and vegetarian. That's just, there's a couple popular ones that are commonly contacting the Earth and that are trying to help us deal with some of our biggest issues, that also, help to propagate that kind of information, because systemically we need a lot of shifts in how we operate with these industries, especially with animal farming and the way that the kind of mass farming has happened on this planet. It's pretty awful. But, it's also really important to recognize that our body also only handles certain kinds of oils in certain kinds of ways. And one of the most unfortunate things that I see about the sort of rise of all of these vegan products inside of, different grocery stores is that almost always they all contain polyunsaturated fatty acids and really unhealthy oils that essentially will slow your metabolism down and affect your body in a variety of different ways. And so I encourage people to learn about these things, learn about metabolic health, learn about oils in the body, learn about the kinds of things that enhance the body's operations, versus creating detriment, because you can choose literally any kind of diet. And if you do it right, and if you do it consciously, it can be extraordinarily empowering. So I really encourage people to learn more about that, and to learn more about those things. So great example. The vegans made veganism sexy. Awesome. Amazing. Let's reduce the killing of the animals and the way that the animal farming has been done. Let's change it. Let's go local, let's go biological, let's go regenerative. And this really points to a major facet of this change-making process. It's making it hot, making it cool. So from my standpoint, I look around and I see that people don't want to, donate to charities. People don't tend to have the time to go do good and do direct regenerative action in the world. Why? Because they've got jobs to do, right? But and they have to make money. And then you've got all of the millennials and the youth that's coming up in the world now, and they're looking at the corporate systems and the way that the systems have been, and they're like, I don't want a 9-to-5 job. I don't want to go do that. I don't want to be in an office my whole life. Like, I don't want to participate in that the way that it is. And there, we have this incredible opportunity. And it's already been there because we have so many people that do TaskRabbit, Uber, Lyft, Thumbtack. I don't even know, whatever the one is in Australia. That's the big one. But these are applications where someone is just on their phone and they just can click a button and they have a job. And they can go do that job and they can get paid for it. Now, these things aren't all that fancy and amazing because, if you're Uber or Lyft, you're driving a car around. Okay, not very purpose fulfilling, but maybe you like to talk to the people that ride in your car. If you're doing Thumbtack or TaskRabbit, it could be anything from literally scrubbing someone's toilet to building some shelving for them in a garage to hauling their junk away because they're moving, right? And so none of these things really give us any sense of purpose fulfillment, credibility, a sense of movement forward in our lives, in ourselves. No one comes home from doing TaskRabbit toilet cleanings at the end of the day and just like, man, I'm so proud of all the amazing work that I did today. Like how much I made the world a better place. Like if you do, like, congratulations, because you're 1 in a million, and that's amazing that you can just be joyful about the act of service in that way. But for a lot of people, it's just not that way. It doesn't feel that way. And so I started thinking about how could we actually create a process where the vocation, the job, the thing that you go do is actually something that makes impact and makes a difference in the world. What if the job you took on TaskRabbit was cleaning up a beach, or planting trees, or building community gardens, or cleaning up a river, or building a school, or helping homeless people? And what if it was paying you better than you get paid doing TaskRabbit, Uber, Lyft, and all of these other things? And this idea, started kind of cooking around as I was building education platforms for many years. I built a series of online academies. Some of you may have heard of the Resonance Academy for Unified Physics. I built with Nassim Haramein and taught unified physics there. I wrote the main physics programs for the Unified Science course, which was modules 3 and 4 of this major collegiate level physics course there. And I built the Guardian Alliance, which is like a school for self-mastery. And I got really into this idea of missions. What does it look like to take a mission and to go into the world and to have to do something that is like an initiation? It's going to help you grow in some way. It's going to stretch you, maybe expand you a little bit, but that when you accomplish it at the end, you feel like some part of you is now stronger and has grown and has evolved in some way. And I started thinking about how could we create an entire culture around missions, and how would we fund all those missions? And how would you actually get the people to do this and to make it happen? And so I'll pause there again, but I, at this point, have solved that puzzle.
Yeah, well, with the Core Nexus platform, right?
That's right.
And we spoke about that because it's something that I've been really excited about and can't wait for it to happen because of personal experience on other platforms. But there's so much more to it than the next social media or group gathering platform where we can come together and show our videos and talk. There's so much more to it. Indigo says here, what's she saying here? We've been feeling the collapse of a lot of these systems for a while, but can we replace them with things that benefit humanity? What do you think will happen as the old systems start to collapse? Yeah. I have a couple of thoughts about that. It's funny. If it runs smoothly, I'm thinking the first thing that came to mind, you might have that, is like the DVD shops, like when everything was streaming online, like we had records and then we went to CDs and then we had DVDs, and like there are old systems of the way we ingested media, and they collapsed as new technology came out. We just transitioned sort of smoothly, except for the older generation that just doesn't want to. I'm a part of that older generation, by the way. Still wants to shove a DVD in a DVD player. I've got a DVD player that's sitting here. It hasn't been used for 12 years. I haven't put anything in it for 12 years, but it still sits there. It's a new system. So if it happens smoothly, it can happen. Yeah, what do you think? Does there have to be chaos for things to collapse, for old systems to collapse?
No, it doesn't. And it doesn't mean it's not going to be difficult for some people and some groups. I mean, it probably was pretty rough for people that were high up in the top executives of Blockbuster Video, right?
Right.
And, for some people, going to a Blockbuster Video and going in a store and being able to walk around and look at all the movies, and you're not just seeing 10 at a time, you're seeing hundreds, that was ideal. That was the great experience. They really enjoyed that and they really loved that. But it didn't take much for, Redbox. I never have to go in the store. And then finally it was like, a Netflix sending you DVDs to your house. It was like, I don't have to go to the video store. I can just have them send it to me, until eventually the technology caught up and streaming became so good that there was literally no reason to go get a device, a thing from anywhere. You could literally just select the thing you want and it's instantly playing and streaming, inside your house. And what the hilarious thing is, though, is that for the entire industry, this all worked out really good for the film industry. Because if you think about it, I don't know about you guys, but I think I subscribe to, you know, Disney and Hulu, Disney Plus and Hulu and Prime Video and Netflix and Apple TV Plus or whatever. You know, I've probably got 5 or 6 services that I pay for monthly that just run. That's just money going out of my account every month. So whether or not I'm watching any of the things, I have all these subscriptions I'm paying. So I'm literally renting X amount of movies a month, no matter what. Right.
Yeah. Me too.
It's just automated. Right.
Yeah.
And it's possible, you know, looking at certain times and whatever, maybe I watch more than that. Maybe, you know, when I have a stint where I'm into a show and I'm watching something, you know, at the end of the night, every night or whatever, or that kind of thing. But there are fascinating ways that our lives got easier in being able to find and watch anything that we want, anytime we want. And the lives of the corporations that were serving us that media got easier because they didn't have to produce any physical products. All they have to do is keep the servers running and keep them serving the videos to you. And they're going to get paid every month, and it's going to be guaranteed income because everybody forgets about that $10 charge, you know, that's going to their bank account every month. So we can see that whether or not you like those film industries or think that they're really good or not, none of that matters. What matters is looking at the way that life actually got easier through a major disruption and how that disruption created, in a sense, a very positive change for people on both sides of a marketplace. So that's the kind of thinking that we come from. How do you create a system where everyone wins? And one of the first lenses that we brought to that equation was looking at how could we make a social platform where everyone wins? Because I had a presence on MySpace. I had a presence on Tribe. I was aware of Facebook when it first started getting big. I joined Facebook to kind of check it out. And the reason that Facebook won was that it was faster and it was easier to use. And the next thing you know, everybody's on Facebook. And what we didn't know and didn't expect at that time was that Facebook was going to undergo a tremendous challenge. And that challenge is actually to figure out how it would have a business model. And the young kid, Zuckerberg, you know, kind of falls into, suddenly he has this big website with all these users and all this stuff. And he has to figure out how to monetize this because it costs a lot to make all those servers. Plus every investor looking at it is like, I'll give you all this money, but this thing has got to make money, right? And so what do? He had no idea. And so what was shoved in is, well, you can have all this information about these people and these users. So that's valuable to companies. Why don't you sell it? And so selling user data became one of the first big business models in Facebook. And the other was the essence of essentially advertising. You want to make money, you got to sell to the advertisers. Well, the interesting thing about advertising is that, you know, when you're out in the real world, you buy a billboard, it's on the billboard. It costs you a fee. A certain amount of people see that billboard from driving down the street. But when you're online, when you're inside of a social system like Facebook, they have all the controls over what you see and what you don't. That's what they call the algorithms. Yeah. And they realized that if they keep you from seeing the things that you want to see, right? Like if they keep a company from reaching the audience that they've already built, they found that they would pay to try to get more access to that audience, that it was worth money to anyone to pay to have more people see what their content is. And in the beginning days, it was really awful. It was really like the mafia. I built an organization called Unify back in 2012. We grew it to over 1 million followers. We had events all around the world, December 21st, 2012. And all of a sudden, Facebook just completely cuts our reach. We're a nonprofit organization. We've literally no money. We've just create money to use it, to spend it, to do the campaigns. And and they stop our growth, and we're growing thousands of new users every month. And it took us a couple weeks to actually get on the phone with somebody at Facebook, and they said, well, sir, we have a new business program where all you have to do is just pay us $50 to $100 a day, and we will ensure that you keep reaching your audience. And my friend Mark Healy was on the phone with them, and you know, he's got a British accent, and he's like, what are you talking about? Are you kidding me? Like, this is organic reach, right? I mean, this is people actually just sharing our stuff with other people. That's all. It's just, we're making videos, we're paying for that, we're spending this money, and they're sharing, and other people are sharing it. What are you doing? You're just stopping people from sharing our stuff. What's going on? You know? And they're like, no, sir, it's just a business program that we're using to enhance our relationship with businesses, and we're going to ensure that you keep having that reach as long as you pay us. So they took our entire audience hostage. And they've done this over and over again. I mean, this has happened for every large scale page that you can imagine. At one point or another, I worked with the Earth We Are One guys, EWOW, and their whole network of pages, 15 million reach plus, or 15 million followers plus per page, over 100 million across all of these different pages. And they literally just would force whoever it is running whatever page of whatever size to pay to play. So this is a huge, huge problem. And it's been a problem that has not gone away. It's changed a little bit. There are mechanisms because of competition with things like TikTok and the growth of other platforms that have sort of forced some of the larger social media groups, including Facebook, to lighten that up a little bit, to let people actually reach a little bit more audience on occasion. But it has not stopped the business sense and the structure of their fundamental business model, meaning that if you're going to try to sell a product that's worth money, you better be paying for ads if you're going to try to sell this, you know, to propagate that through a Facebook product. And if you are, you know, growing really fast, well, get ready because you're about to get throttled and they're going to make you pay. Or if you talk about things that are in certain areas of censorship, then they could just cut you off instantly, because anything that creates, you know, a challenge for them at this large scale corporate level needs to be diminished as just simple corporate protocol. So that's a lot of the situation that we're in, unfortunately. And that's a lot of the place that we started this new solution. But I'll pause there.
Yeah. I know you've got a solution, but it's been delayed. I was hoping it would happen this year, but it might not happen until next year, or maybe even the year after, of connecting the world without
that's not
being.
true, but...
What's that?
Yeah, that's. I mean, it's not true. We actually have a live alpha out, and by the end of the year, we're going to launch the economic system, and then we're going to do the large scale launch next summer for the International Day of Peace. Just for clarity.
Okay, cool. So the International Day of Peace is the 21st of September.
Yeah, exactly.
So
that's the big target launch date.
Yeah, it's coming. So connecting the world through, without different algorithm. What I've noticed with the algorithms is that when you put up personal stuff on the Blue platform, FB platform, that you get a much bigger reach. But if you put it something like a podcast up or an event up, they don't show anybody. So there is kind of a way around it. If you say things like, especially if somebody dies, if you die, a lot of people see that, or get married or have a birthday. Yeah, when it's personal, they'll let your followers see it. I don't know the algorithms, but if you're trying to share information or an event or even a free podcast, they want you to pay for it. So how is Core Nexus different to what we currently have? And let me see if I can show what you've got going on.
Great.
Yeah, so how's it different? Adam.
Yeah. So, it looks like you're just showing the header of the website, but I happy to share at some point the full interface magic and a lot of what we've been building and creating and what's going on with Core Nexus. As you can see, we were nominated for the Earthshot Prize in 2023 and now also this year in 2024. So that's happened. Basically, what we do differently fundamentally is that, one, you own and control your identity and you own and control your data. And we build importers that let you essentially take back your social network. So you can now import all of your content from your Facebook, your Instagram, your Twitter, and other social content, take your entire history that you've created on those platforms. You now own and control it in your own Iron Man style, amazing 3D, VR, XR, and web and mobile dashboard. Then you can create any kind of digital product that you want. We have AI tools that can help you take things that you've created already, stuff that you've written, stuff on your hard drive, and instantly generate products out of it. And when you sell those products, you can automatically split royalties with your friends. So if you co-create a course or you co-create a certain piece of media with somebody, maybe you did a video with a group of people, essentially anytime you sell that product or anytime somebody buys it, it'll automatically pay to everybody that you put in that royalty table that you collaborated with, including, by the way, if you licensed a piece of music and you used a friend's music or somebody's music out there, you can have it automatically pay that music producer, you can have it automatically pay the graphics creators, etc. Now, through that mechanism, what we're able to do is with every sale on the platform, automatically donate 1% up to 100% of whatever your earnings are. You can donate into whatever area of impact you care about. So, you know, a lot of my friends as musicians and myself included and others, we release albums and we're like, hey, I really want to support the elephants, or I really want to help with rainforest preservation or whatever. So we make a plan and we donate 10% or 30% or sometimes 50% to that impact area, right? But this is still the old game right now where you're donating out to charities and you don't know what happens with it. You almost never see the real results of your money and your action. In our system, what happens is that money goes into impact funds. You earn points and ranking for selling a product and donating, and so does the buyer. The buyer also earns impact points because they bought a product that's giving to impact. And the money that goes into those impact funds, instead of just sitting there, what we do is we attach them as bounties on real world missions. So now, instead of doing TaskRabbit or Uber or Lyft or whatever, a group of kids, 10 kids can go clean up the beach together as an event. One of them creates the event. The others go show up at the event. They hang out on the beach. They pick up trash. They take selfies. Here's our trash that we just picked up. We take the selfie. Look, now the beach is clean, before and after shots. All those photos and media validate that the impact happened. And then boom, $100 hits all of their wallets. They earn badges and they earn ranking in the system. So essentially, we're creating an entire gamified economy where the $1 trillion a year right now that are being used to buy and sell digital products that people use to buy media, courses, you know, apps, NFTs, all of that, we're channeling that capital and a significant chunk of it into an area of impact that's creating jobs for people to do good in the world and to actually make a difference. So this has been this has been 15 years envisioning and working out the kinks of how this whole system could operate. And then over the last few years, I've been building very actively with a pretty extensive team. This is some of my colleagues and friends. You can scroll through. There's a lot of them, so you can just scroll on down. And with a lot of these amazing allies, we've come up with the architecture, the technical solutions, the legal frameworks, the cultural frameworks to make this thing a reality. And we've raised over $1 million. We've built a ton of the aspects of the system. You know, we have Gopi Kalayil, who's the chief of AI business development at Google. He's an advisor on our team. We have several others on that have major exits. David Gershon literally wrote the book on second order level change, which is how do you create change where entire communities actually embody that change going into the future? Adam Curry is also an AI advisor, amazing person working on a Turing test to test the consciousness level of AI and how self-aware is it. A brilliant individual. Nico Rotundo, we're working with an alliance around the world of eco projects and eco villages, and he's connected several of our funders, and he's connecting major impact groups around the world to what we're doing. We just have an extraordinary fleet of people that have come together to make this happen. And everyone's been committed and patient and dedicated to seeing this thing through. And we're not stopping no matter what. Even when funding's been challenging because of economics, the economic system as a whole, we have, over 20 LOIs of different large-scale organizations. We're part of the Blue Planet Alliance with Hank Rogers, who is the guy who made Tetris famous, if you saw the Tetris movie. Unify, we currently reach 10 million minimum per month through our social networks. During large-scale campaigns like World Water Day and International Day of Peace, we reach hundreds of millions of people, and we hold the world record for the world's largest synchronized meditation. So we've got our hands in a lot of fronts with a lot of major organizations, and it's just a matter of time before our systems are fully complete and ready for a big public global launch. So stay tuned. This website is just core.nexus, core.nexus. You can check it out. And we're going to be releasing, get on our list there, because we're going to be opening up a crowdfunding campaign actually this month. And we're trying to now bring in the public to be a part of this, because we believe that these kinds of things need to really have everyone be a contributor, everybody be a part of the system's creation. And the system's sense of ownership belongs to everyone then, not just a small group of investors. And we've been very careful with the investors we've chosen. We've said no to a lot of money that would have wanted to steer us in a different direction. And we've constantly said yes to money that really understood the power of the impact that we're creating. And that's why we want the public to really be a part of this too, because I believe that the people want to see this happen. And if we do it together, we can make it happen. We can make it so massive that we can literally create the largest fleet of global planetary change makers and superheroes the world's ever seen. And it's the entire next generation of the youth coming up that want to be influencers. They want to be superheroes. And it's time to make that change. And if you're out there building a community, we have systems to build custom, fully integrated and custom community spaces inside the platform. So think way beyond Facebook pages. You get your own theme, your own color scheme. You can change the views in the system. It's all, interactive dashboards. And we are contracting with several communities. We have actually active right now we're building with, and we invite more to come in on that so that we can launch together as a fleet and not just do this, with one or another, small communities.
I know it's a massive project, and it's very exciting. I can't wait for it to happen. But
thank you.
Yeah, Adam and I were chatting about it before we went live today, and there's been a few setbacks. But I think that the people need to get involved, as we spoke about. In order to make planetary change, we need to sort of come together to make that happen. Yeah. Something that I spoke about with you on the last show I did with you last year, actually, when I was driving out to the desert and I was screaming. I was alone in the car, screaming at nobody, screaming at the Galactic team overseeing this planet. Like, why am I still driving a petrol car? Like, what happened? Well, I was a kid 50 years ago thinking I'd be in a spaceship when I grew up, and here I am in my 60s and I'm still in a petrol car. I could buy a Tesla, I suppose, if I had lots of money. But where did the advancement in technology go? And and they were just telling me exactly the same thing. It's going to happen through the people. It's if you wait for governments to change and systems to change, it's the people power. It's really the voice of the people, the action of the people. And action is very often put your money where your mouth is. You want to see change.
That's right.
Put your money where your mouth is. So crowdfunding this. You could put in a couple of dollars, you could put in a couple of million. Will really create a system change on this planet, both in social connection, but in doing good connection. Yeah, it's an amazing looking system. I've been looking at this for years. But at the same time, it's still centralized. It's kind of not community owned. How do you kind of get around that? Because, you know, a lot of people talk about things being more non-centralized in the new earth rather than one person owning it.
Well, from a data standpoint and the actual ownership of data on the platform, it's completely decentralized. But from the organizational standpoint of how we build the system, we needed to take a traditional route of a little bit more company structure. We call it a synarchy, where every person on the team is part of the leadership, meaning that it doesn't matter whether you're, you know, an engineer or an executive assistant, or you're into marketing and you're doing social media posts. Anyone on the team can come up with the vision that leads us in a new direction. And so it's very open in terms of the creative flow. But I don't know how many of you have ever been part of a, you know, what they call like a green meme level council, or like a DAO, for example, decentralized autonomous organization, where you are an equal decision maker with 100 other people or 1,000 other people. The difficulty of actually making strategic and quick decisions to be able to move forward a large scale process is extraordinarily difficult when you operate like that. And you don't
radio.
Yeah. And you don't need to look any further than look at the United States government to understand that, to understand how large scale groups trying to make minuscule decisions in a process has never worked. It's never been the thing. And there was years where people were like, oh, the DAOs are going to save the world because then everybody can make the decisions together. Yes, well, that's important that we all make the decisions together when it comes to large scale biospheric decisions, like what's happening in our city, you know, what's happening in this town or on these streets. You know, how are we determining the flow of this shared environment that we're choosing to live in together? That's where it's absolutely critical. But if I'm trying to build a website and I incorporate, you know, 20 people in the process of, let's say, just deciding what the logo is going to look like, it's going to take us 6 months to make a logo.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's just reality. That's the fact. And I've done this work for a very, very, very long time. So the way that we structured our company is I own this company with my co-chairman, Harlan Wood. Superluminal Systems has been around for, we founded back in 2013. I founded it the year after I founded Unify. And, you know, we created a really lean and effective system of paired decision-making for the executive moves, where either he makes the call or I make the call. But if we disagree, we find the higher thing that we agree on. And all of our team has the ability to bring up things that we should do. And then essentially we can determine what's the level of resonance in the team towards doing that. If the resonance is really high, then we make it happen. And we execute it and we do it and we assign who's going to be responsible for it or be responsible for ourselves, and we get it done. And through doing that, I've built, you know, 6 different massive online academies over the last 10 years. You know, one of them, the Resonance Academy, is the largest, 150,000 students plus, before it was closed because Nassim opened up the International Space Federation. The Guardian Alliance, 7,000 students doing self-development work. Visionary Arts Academy, which kind of rose and fell and never fully took off. But I also built the National Sedation Center online school. I built the Convergence Academy, which is an interspiritual academy group. I've been doing this and building these things and releasing courses and just doing it with no capital, no investment, no upfront thing, because of the way that it can work when you move in a lean and effective fashion and everybody's producing. It's extraordinarily efficient. So from a systemic level, we're building this infrastructure in these systems from that level of intelligence to be able to create the system faster, manage it, and ensure its success. But at a data level, you have a decentralized ID on the system, and we're partnered with Holochain that's facilitating that component. That will be a big part of next year's launch. And so you own your identity much more than you got in any social network now. And then as you take data in and you take back your social networks or anything that you load and create, you fully own and control that data. You have the power to export it, to take it wherever you want, to do whatever you want with it. When you bring in your network and your friends and your connections, you own those network connections, meaning no one can ever throttle you, and you control your own algorithm. We have a tool called TrustGraph, and you can learn about that at trustgraph.is. TrustGraph enables us to create an agent-centric trust lattice that shows reputation, what we care about, who we care about, what we think about, what we trust. So for example, if I'm looking for a new physics paper, maybe I don't care what Google thinks is the best page rank. Maybe I care about what William Brown and Nassim and Marshall Lefferts and my physicist friends think is a good new paper. And now I can, through my trust in them, find a physics paper faster. Whereas if I'm looking for a new recipe to cook some, cedar salmon or whatever, I'm going to be interested in other friends of mine who are really great chefs. And so in that way, you have the power over your algorithm of how you search and what you find and what you keep above the surface. And if somebody's got, completely illogical ideas that don't make any sense at all, you can literally just push that stuff down and give negative trust in that specific area to push that content down below the surface of the ocean, so you never have to see it when you don't want to. But you still might have another area with that same person that you think they're a genius in, like my good friend David Avocado Wolf. Like, I think he's a total genius when it comes to like organic food growing, but he believes the earth is flat. So do I trust him in the science of perception? No. Do I trust him in organic food growing? Yes, I do. And so I have the power through my own logic and my own discernment to choose where and how I'm giving and interacting with trust in my network. So yes, it is a very much decentralized system in that way.
I did not know that about David Avocado Wolf. I did not know that. That's really interesting.
I'm kindly picking on him because I love him. It's he's such a good guy. Yeah.
Whatever we want to believe, right? Yeah. Right. Well, that sounds amazing. Amazing. Maybe it's a bit over the head for a lot of people listening to this. What's he talking about? I just want to do a station break too and remind people that you're listening to Accentuate the Positive, Awakening, Expanding Consciousness with Karen Swain on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 and 105.3 FM syndicated radio across America and Canada. We are talking today with Adam Apollo about planetary stewardship. How do we steward the planet into a new direction of peace and harmony and cooperation? Yeah, and it's starting, we're talking about a new platform, social media platform. It's so much more than a social media platform, really. It's a new system to do that. And I'm thinking because I was on community radio when I first started on radio, which is about the community, about everyone working at the station, making all the decisions. There's committees and all that sort of stuff. And nothing used to get done because everyone was arguing about their point of view, which happens often in community when people come together to live in communities. Like the community is going to everyone's going to have their say on how things are run and how things are done. And humans just can't seem to, they want to be right about, I've got this idea and I'm right about it, rather than this ego thing comes into play, rather than what's best for the whole. Like, let's look at the system that works best for everybody, not what's best for you and your preferences, but what's best for the majority. And this is a system that can be implemented globally. Our governance systems. Yeah, we talk about democracy, but we don't live in a democracy, right?
Well, I would say that unfortunately, because of the way the Electoral College works and the way that the selection process works for some of the largest roles in different countries, including in the United States, the US presidency. It's very, very carefully curated. And as much as I know some people would love to think that, oh yeah, no, there's just power, there's like a powerful disruptor who's in there or whatever. Like, no, guys, sorry. It's business as usual. If it wasn't structured, a particular way to meet the needs and the ends of specific large scale finance holders, really central bankers and large scale finance holders, lobbyists of some of the largest corporations of the world, if it doesn't serve those interests, it's not going to get into the presidency in the United States in the way that it's set up right now. And the game is designed that way. And it's designed to make you play red versus blue. So in the United States, everybody's either blue or they're red, and they're like opposing. So everyone's divided. They think the other side is completely insane and they're totally wrong. And what's hilarious is that the more you get to know the communities on either side, you can see why they think each other are insane. But the reason why they think each other are insane is actually all ignorance. And it's ignorance based on specific top-down media disinformation that's crafted in a way to distort the perception. So each side gets sort of hoodwinked in a different way to perceive things in a certain way and have a certain lens that makes them combative. And then doesn't matter. It actually doesn't matter who gets into office because the large interests are getting their way either way.
Yeah, I know. The power of the media, it's just out of control. Like, I had my brother stay here a few years back, and listening to his opinions on life, love, and the universe was a complete regurgitation of what the media is putting out through news and current affair programs. But he was saying it in such a way like, I've really thought about this, and this is my opinion, and I'm thinking about this. It's like he thinks he was thinking that this was his thinking, and you could see that it wasn't. It's like we just get hypnotized. It's actually why I started this podcast show, I don't know, 15 years ago, because the power of the media over the way we think and make decisions. Yeah, loving this interview. Oh, thanks, Nancy. You said that before. Great. Yeah, question about truth. At the end of the day, we all believe in something, and those believe in question. Thanks for bringing Break Crow. Oh, thanks, dying one. Yeah, the power of the media. So we do need different points of views to be able to, open up our minds, open up our thinking.
Yeah.
And but I have to say, your electoral, what's going on in the States, it's hilarious. It's the greatest show on earth. It's absolutely. I just find it so fascinating and funny, and it's absolutely hilarious. As you say, it doesn't really matter which side gets in. There's only two parties running now. Who do you think will get in? What's your prediction?
I cringe. I cringe at the thought of predicting, because either way, it's kind of a nightmare. And for different reasons. There's a lot of people that love Kamala, and there's a lot of people that hate Kamala, and there's a lot of people that love Trump, and there's a lot of people that hate Trump. And there's really, they're really two sides of a dark coin. And there's been a massive amount of manipulation that's gone on to get us to this point and to where we're at in our belief systems and our thoughts. I look at like Nancy's comment of saying, right now, I could not say for sure if the earth is flat or round. Not sure if anybody can. And I think that's a really fascinating statement to make, because, particularly based on the fact that we have over 500 years of science proving that the earth is round and a sphere, right? And so it's like, why is that up for question again right now? And we have to kind of look at it and look at these things and say, what is it actually that's getting us to believe what's true and what's not? And for the most part, what's happening is we're relying on the inquiries and the thoughts and the ideas of people like me and you sharing right now online with a bunch of people. So I could say a bunch of things, and if I say it with some gusto and a real, conviction, you might believe it's true, even though it may or may not be true. You have to actually ask these questions for yourself. And it's important, I think, always in the search for truth to come back to personal experience and to actually really test things out for ourselves, you know? So anybody out there in the world who is wondering, you know, is the Earth flat? Just get a pair of binoculars and go hang out by a place where cruise ships come and go, like a big cruise ship port, and just watch the cruise ships. Take the binoculars and watch it go over the horizon. It will not just get small and disappear. It will not just blur because it's too far away. You will see the bottom of the cruise ship disappear all the way until the very, very top part of whatever the smokestack or whatever finally vanishes as it goes over the curvature. You know, if it's just things like that, and just basic perspective knowledge, where, for example, if you understand perspective and how height and distance works, well, it turns out that if the Earth was totally flat, you would be able to see Mount Everest from the UK. In fact, you might even be able to see it from, if it's a clear day, from parts of the United States. And if you were in an airplane at 40,000 feet and you were flying across the Atlantic from Europe over to North America, you know, or for example, you're coming from New Zealand and going over to Australia, you would be able to see the entire continent of Australia, the entire continent from the air. Now, the reality is that when you're on that flight, you can't even see the continent, right? Barely, until you get within a couple hundred miles. And when you're crossing the Atlantic, it's the same way. You can't even see the North America until you're within a couple hundred miles because you're moving around the curvature. And, you know, I think that some of these things I like to speak about a little bit because, unfortunately, the level of let's say, the level of fear, is it fear? Is it a suspicion? Is it a sense that someone's lying to you? You know, that feeling that's there is real for all of us. And the feeling that we're being lied to is one of the biggest drivers that drove me to create education systems and to become a speaker. When I was in high school, I just had the sense that a lot of what I was being told was a lie. And I could feel it in my body. It just didn't feel right, you know?
Yeah.
And it is true that, you know, according to the Disclosure Project and Stephen Greer's work with, you know, all the hundreds of witnesses from CIA, NSA, FBI, pilots, astronauts, some of the testimonies were from people that worked in a specific secret department in NASA whose job was to remove any spaceships from any of the photos being taken of planets and of space, things, objects, UFOs, UAPs, whatever you want to call them, that didn't, you know, that they're like not supposed to actually allow out there, right? And so it is true that NASA has hidden information. It's true that there have been Black organizations that have hidden different kinds of things from people in different ways. And we have every reason to have that suspicion, for sure. But the problem is when we extend that suspicion and that fear and that doubt to everyone, where we say, well, then every astronaut's a liar.
Everybody's lying. Yeah.
Every scientist is a liar.
A liar, right.
Well, they're all liars. Guess what happens then? You become an isolated person who's created a belief in a conspiracy that the entire world is against you.
Is lying, yeah. And you're living in
when fear. Somebody like me points out that there's a logic flaw in your flat Earth idea, you know, that you heard online from someone, right? Suddenly you feel angry and you may feel like, oh, well, then he's the bad guy or he's the bad person. And I can't tell you how many times I've been assaulted online just by pointing out one simple thing. Like, hey, well, you know, I lived on the beach in Hawaii. My dad lived on the beach there for 25 years. I watched countless boats go over the horizon. I have friends who are astronauts. My other friends literally just went to Antarctica last year. I have all their photos. They all hung out on Antarctica. It's not a freaking ice wall. I mean, all of the proofs are correct for me, right?
We all just need to learn to remember our astral travels, and then we can validate it or not, because all of us are out of body at night, cruising around, whether they're cruising around our bedroom or cruising around the neighborhood or our city, or we're up in space. Yeah, because there's a lot of people I've had on the show that do remember their astral travels. Like we say that, we learn to have astral travels, but in fact, we're all doing it every night. We just come back into this river of oblivion or veil of forgetfulness, and we just forget. So the expansion in consciousness is not about feeling isolated, like everyone's lying to you and everyone's out to get you. That's just living in fear, and I've seen so much online talking about the awakening process, that we awaken to all the lies on earth, but then people feel isolated and they live in fear and they feel like everyone's lying to them all the time, like anyone in authority. That's not what awakening is about. Awakening is about feeling completely supported and loved in your skin, and like the universe adores you and life adores you, and you can create your reality no matter what anybody else believes. You can get what you want. You can make it happen simply because you know how to align energy. Rather than listening to what other people have to say. It's always about what feels good inside my body, because that's your truth, regardless of what anybody else's truth is about. I've seen that happen, especially since 2020. Like this mass awakening is people waking up to the lies, and living in fear and feeling like everybody's out to get them and everybody's wrong and arguing with everybody, rather than feeling like Wayne Dyer says, you either believe in a friendly universe or a hostile universe. And those people that believe in a friendly universe are connected to their soul essence, their spiritual essence, because life is here to serve you. It's not out to get you.
That's right. It's an extraordinarily beautiful universe. I mean, it's all flowing in this beautiful design and pattern. And I mean, the spherical earth is gorgeous because it lets there be seasons, and it lets there be cycles, and it lets us connect to the heart of the earth. It lets the moon pull the tides around the planet, and it lets us dance with all the other beautiful spheres out there. As the philosophers once called it, the music of the spheres by Pythagoras, where we're part of this incredible song that is a universe. And we have to open our hearts. We have to have compassion. And that even means compassion for some of the darkest controlling systems on the planet. That means compassion for the Trumps and the Harrises of the world, and for whoever happens to be, in the politics in your country out there. It means loving and accepting each other no matter what. Because the thing is, I've had countless sit down conversations and dinners and whatever with people who thought the earth was flat. And because they learned about it online and they had questions and they didn't know how to ask the right questions, it's totally fine. I'm not going to judge somebody for that belief. I don't think that anything's wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just an idea. But we have to be able to talk about ideas. And we can't talk about ideas unless we can be friends, unless we can actually open our hearts and hear each other. And if we question and we hear each other and we learn and we grow, then maybe we just get a little bit more insight. We get a little bit greater perspective. And I believe that relationships are the key to everything. So how we relate with each other and how we learn from each other is everything in terms of how we grow, and really also in terms of who we are and who we become, because we become who we are through every relationship and every dynamic that we've had from the beginning of our experience in time. That's really what's forged us. And if you look at your life, you'll realize that even the hardest times that you've had with whoever you had them with, those things helped you grow in amazing ways. And you learned so much because of those relationships. So in the end, love is the answer, period. That's really the one truth. That's the one and only answer. And from states of love, we also gain states of clarity because we get into clearer relationships, not just with each other as humans, but with animals, with planets, with plants, with plants and with planets, with the nature of existence itself. And then we begin to see it more clearly, more lucidly, and really understand its processes, its cycles and dynamics. And that helps us step into greater superpowers in us to serve others and to serve the world that we live in.
Beautifully said. Yeah. Rather than judging and criticizing what's happening in the world, I think the more intelligent way to go about it is asking questions like, why is this happening? How does it serve me? How does it serve humanity? You know, I was watching some movies, and there are lots of war movies, and there's just so many war movies. And I was watching a war movie about World War One, and I was getting very critical. Bloody humans, all they want to do is fight each other. God, when's this planet going to wake up? Because all we want to do is kill each other. I'm in my head doing this. And my guide said, yeah, but look how World War One changed the world. And I said, how did it change the world? Just by killing people's sons, going off to war, killing everybody's children. This is me in my head. It said it actually completely changed the social structure of the world, because when you put all these different people in a war, they all became one in their fight of the other side. And black and white and money and poor, rich people, poor people, all worked together. And when World War One changed, the society was greatly different. And I thought, wow, I hadn't actually ever thought about it like that. So there's always a purpose to everything that we're going through, even if it looks chaotic and mad and crazy. There's something going on. And so, so ask better questions like, what is the purpose to this? How is it serving me? How is it serving humanity? Before we go, because we've only got 10 minutes left, you've got a new book out. Come on, plug your book. What's happening with the book?
Sure. Yeah, no, I'd be so honored if people wanted to check it out.
Is it on your website? Can I share it on your website? Let me see if I can find it on your
website. So no, the site literally just launched, so it's not even on my personal website. I just opened it up. I literally just sent the first email out like night before last. And so it's called The Dragon Key, and the website is thedragonkey.com. And the book is a exploration of the last 25 years of my life, where I've had simultaneous, intense past life recall experiences with other people. It started happening to me when I was a teenager. I didn't know what to make of it. When I got into college, I had such profound experiences that forced me to look at this as a scientist, because I'm also a very scientific thinker. I always have been. I mean, my senior project in high school was called The Unification of Science and Spirituality Through Unified Field Theoretics, which is about astrophysics and consciousness. And so anyway, I'm a very scientific guy. But these experiences forced me to acknowledge that reincarnation must be possible, and not just possible, but that I'd had multiple incarnations. And it happened really because of a person, third party, coming into my life who literally knew my name and the name of a woman that I knew in college from another lifetime. And she and I had just had some flashbacks and some dreams. And he got drunk at a Halloween party, starts calling us by those names and crying and apologizing to us for what he did to us in the Middle Ages. And so that really sort of set me on this trail. And since then, I have met hundreds of people that I share past life memories with. I began documenting my lifetimes across Earth, and it ended up that I began to have memories from other worlds and have experiences from other planets. And I started to document those and to find many more people like me who have these memories and experiences on these other worlds and in these other cultures. And I always thought a lot of this was just for me and just for me to be, a speaker and to share with people about. But as I wrote about all of it and I shared and kind of documented more and more of these lifetimes, I began to realize that I really had a responsibility to share my journey and my story with people. And so the book, the actual paperback book, will be available on Amazon in a couple months. But right now, I've opened up the online experience, which is media rich. You get the downloads of each section as they're released that you can read from your phone or from a tablet or from any reader. It's also available online with lots of cool images and stories from each of the lifetimes. And right now, the introduction is open. I'm about to. The prologue is open. I'm about to release the whole introduction, which is basically a past life course on how to see and understand your lifetimes and your own experiences in that area. And then I'll be opening up the main body of the book and publishing the book. So come and join us. Join my inner circle on there. We're going to do live Q&As about past lives. I'll help you with your own recall experiences. The book's got an AI companion. Go ahead and click become a member, and I'll show you the second page. It's quite beautiful if you scroll up a little and click that. But it's great opportunity to just, to get to know me and to connect. No, there's the button. There's just buttons all over on the page, or you can click the experience. That's fine. Yeah, so come in and learn about dragons, learn about galactic culture, learn about, history on Earth, and learn about past life memories. I've got some really cool AI companions that I built for the book too, that know the content of the book. So you can ask them questions and they'll give you poetic answers and insights based on writings that I've done that I fed into the system. So it's a really, really fun project, and I'm really excited to have people come and join me for it.
The dragon energy seems to be very present on the Earth right now. I'm talking to a lot of people talking about dragon energies, and we were talking about, somebody asked in the questions, how do we change systems without things collapsing? Like that dragon energy is really represents that transition and shift, like burning down the old and building up the new. It represents all the elements that we're working here in the physical dimension: fire, wind, water, air. Dragons seem to sort of have dominion over those elements. They breathe fire, they fly in the air, they can be in the water. That dragon energy seems to be big at the moment. Everyone's talking about dragons. Well, in my circles anyway. I don't know about other people's circles, but in my circles.
Definitely. All around my entire life, and most of the circles, I'm in many different kinds of circles, and most of the circles in my life are all facing a lot of dragon information lately. And one of the biggest things in this first book covers the sort of story of the roots of what happened in our galaxy a long time ago, when dragon souls came to this galaxy, and the two sides of what went down, where there was a massive wound and trauma that the dragons had from having genetics stolen, and that this created a race that then went through and started to destroy this galaxy. And so you'll find keys in this book that answer probably some of the deepest questions you've had about reptilians, about
I was going to say
dragons.
That's a whole conversation, and so that's a whole show in itself, because people are like, aren't dragons reptilians? And then there's all that conditioning about reptilians being evil. And we love as humans to play this good versus bad, right versus wrong, love versus evil game. But there's only one source, and it's a source of pure positive energy. There's only one source of everything that's created, whether you want to separate it and call it good and evil. And some people call that God or source or the creator. There's just one energy that we play with, that all of it. So it's up to us do we want to feel good or feel bad? That's a choice. Do we want to judge things as evil and bad and feel bad about it, or feel good? That's a choice that we're given while we're here on this planetary experience. Darling one, it's been amazing to connect with you again. Have you ever been down under? I'm sure you've been to Australia. Have you been to Australia before?
I actually haven't. The only places in the Southern Hemisphere I've spent significant time were Peru and Bolivia. I spent quite a bit of time there with Richard Salazar, by the way, who just popped up in the chat, and others, friends of mine in the Resonance Academy, exploring sacred sites there. And Peru and Bolivia are amazing. But I've always certainly wanted to come to Australia and New Zealand. I have a lot of friends in New Zealand and Australia both.
Fantastic.
So
we'll have to get you down under. We've run out of time, unfortunately. Big love. Thank you to everyone that's been watching. Thanks, Nancy. And Richard, Diane, everyone that's been online. If I didn't, Susan. Hi. Thank you again, Adam. Stay online. I want to have a chat to you. I'm just going to play the where's my banner, and we'll see you all next time. Check out.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Good to see you all. Thank you.
Bye for now.